When gods come calling, Captain Nathan Cross stood on the bridge of the UE's Valkyrie, watching the stars through the main viewport. The year was 2395, and humanity had been exploring beyond Earth's solar system for barely 2 decades. The Valkyrie wasn't the most powerful ship in the human fleet, but she was fast, reliable, and Nathan was proud to command her through the vast darkness of space. "Captain, we're picking up massive energy signatures," reported Lieutenant Zoe Carter from the tactical station. Her voice carried the steady calm of a veteran officer, but Nathan could hear the underlying tension. Zoe had served with him for 4 years, and she never worried without good reason. Nathan moved closer to her console, studying the readings that made his blood run cold. "What kind of signatures are we talking about, Lieutenant?" 12 vessels. "Sir, each one is at least 3 times larger than anything in our databases. They just appeared out of nowhere, approximately 40,000 kilometers off our starboard bow." Zoe's fingers danced across her controls, trying to make sense of the impossible readings. Engineer Chief Marcus Reed looked up from his station, his weathered face showing concern. "Captain, those energy outputs are beyond anything we've ever seen. Whatever technology they're using, it's centuries ahead of ours." Nathan felt his stomach tighten. The Valkyrie was exploring the Tau Ceti system, far from any human backup or support. If these unknown ships proved hostile, his crew of 180 souls would face them alone. "Red alert," Nathan ordered. "All hands to battle stations. Raise shields and charge weapons, but do not target them yet. We don't want to start something we can't finish." The bridge lights dimmed as warning klaxons echoed throughout the ship. Nathan watched his crew move with practiced efficiency. These were good people, trained and ready, but none of them had ever encountered anything like this. The divine revelation, incoming transmission. "Captain," announced Communications Officer Derek Mills from his station. The young officer had joined them fresh from the academy, but his training was solid and his nerves steady. "Put it on screen," Nathan said, straightening his uniform. The main viewer flickered, and suddenly Nathan found himself staring at something that challenged everything he thought he knew about the universe. The being before him stood 12 feet tall, with skin that seemed to be made of living crystal that pulsed with inner light. 6 arms extended from its torso, each one crackling, with energy that seemed to bend reality around it. Most disturbing were its eyes, swirling vortexes of pure energy that seemed to contain entire galaxies. "Primitive beings of the mud world called Earth," the creature spoke, its voice resonating through dimensions that human ears weren't meant to perceive. "I am Supreme Diverge Kithrin of the Eternal Ascendancy, voice of the Cosmic Throne. You stand before beings of pure divine essence, the rightful rulers of all existence in this galaxy." Nathan exchanged glances with his officers. None of them looked impressed, just alert and ready for whatever came next. The ultimatum Kithron continued, raising all 6 arms in a gesture of supreme authority. "For 12,000 of your primitive years, we have guided the lesser species of this galaxy toward enlightenment under our divine guidance. We are your gods, and you will acknowledge our sacred authority as such." "Gods," muttered Chief Reed under his breath, making a sound of disgust. "You have 72 of your hours to surrender your vessel and submit to our divine will," Kithrin declared, his crystalline form pulsing brighter. "Your species will provide tribute, serve our holy purpose, and accept our eternal guidance. Those who resist the divine order face complete extinction." To demonstrate their power, the aliens destroyed 4 human probe ships that had been mapping the outer system. The vessels simply ceased to exist in flashes of brilliant light. No explosions, no debris, just nothing where sophisticated machines had been moments before. "This is the fate that awaits all who defy the gods," Kithrin said, his energy filled, eyes seeming to stare directly through Nathan's soul. "Consider carefully. Creatures of flesh, Submit and find peace under our eternal rule, or resist and face the judgment of heaven itself. The transmission ended, leaving the bridge in tense silence. Human response. Well, Chief Reed said after a long moment. That was certainly dramatic. Lieutenant Carter snorted. Gods, my foot. Did you see how that thing assumed we just roll? Over? Like we're some primitive species that's never seen advanced technology before. Nathan nodded slowly. Under all the fancy energy displays and godly speeches, there had been something very familiar in the alien's manner. It reminded him of bullies from his childhood, beings who used fear and intimidation to get what they wanted, convinced that a show of force was all they needed. Science Officer Brennan, Nathan called to his chief analyst. I want everything we can learn about these eternal ascendancy beings. Their technology, their tactics, their history, everything. Already working on it, Captain, replied Dr. Patricia. Brennan from her station. I'm analyzing the energy signatures from when they destroyed our probes. The power levels are impressive, but the methodology suggests advanced technology, not actual divine intervention. Should we contact Earth Command? Derek asked hesitantly. Let them know about the ultimatum? Nathan considered this. Earth was weeks away, even at maximum hyperspace speed. By the time any help could arrive, the situation would be long resolved, one way or another. Send the message, he decided. Full report on our situation, but make it clear we're not waiting for rescue. What are your orders, sir? Zoe asked. Nathan looked around at his crew, these remarkable humans who had trusted him to lead them safely through unknown space. They were far from home, facing enemies with superior technology and overwhelming numbers. The smart thing would be to surrender, to try to negotiate, to buy time. But something about the aliens' arrogant assumption that humans would simply submit without question made Nathan's temper flare like a supernova. We wait, he said finally. We learn everything we can about these so-called gods, and then we show them what humans think about bullies who claim to be divine. The price of truth in covering the divine lie DR. Patricia Brennan worked through the night in the Valkyrie's laboratory, her fingers flying over multiple consoles as data streamed across holographic displays. The xenobiologist had been analyzing every scrap of information about the eternal ascendancy for 18 hours straight, and what she was discovering made her stomach turn with a mixture of rage and disgust. Captain, you need to see this immediately, Patricia called out as Nathan entered the lab. Dark circles under her eyes showed she hadn't slept, but her voice was sharp with urgent discovery. Nathan pulled up a chair beside her workstation. What? Have you found, Doctor? It's worse than we thought, sir. Much worse. Patricia brought up a star map, showing the local galactic sector. Red dots marked hundreds of star systems. These are all systems under ascendancy control. Each one contains at least one inhabited world. Some have dozens. Nathan studied the map, feeling sick. How many species are we talking about? At least 89 different civilizations that we could identify from intercepted communications, Patricia replied grimly. And Captain, they're not just conquered, they're systematically enslaved. All of them? She pulled up translated message logs, her hands shaking slightly with anger. Look at this transmission from something called the Melkari Tribute Council to the Ascendancy Fleet Command. Text appeared on the screen. Divine Masters, the Melkari people offer this cycle's tribute as commanded. 3 million units of refined crystalline matrices, 2 million units of processed nutritional compounds, and 75,000 of our strongest citizens for your sacred construction projects. We exist only to serve the eternal gods. 75,000 people, Nathan said quietly, his voice filled with horror. The pattern of oppression. It gets worse, Patricia said, bringing up another message. This is from a species called the Zorathi. They're requesting permission to develop a new agricultural technique that could feed billions of their starving people. The response from the ascendancy was brief and cold. The divine will determines who prospers and who suffers. Your request is denied. Such knowledge is not for lesser beings to possess. They're keeping them primitive on purpose, Nathan realized, anger building in his chest. Exactly. Every species under their control is locked at whatever technological level they had when the ascendancy found them. Some have been frozen in development for thousands of years. Patricia showed him more data. The ascendancy calls themselves shepherds, but they're more like farmers. They harvest resources, labor, and even people from their subject worlds. Chief Reed joined them in the lab, carrying a steaming cup of coffee and looking exhausted. I've been analyzing the energy signatures from their weapon systems. They're incredibly powerful, but Captain, here's the interesting part. I don't think they innovate anymore. All their technology seems ancient, like they stopped developing new methods centuries ago. Patricia nodded in agreement. That matches what I'm seeing in their communications patterns. They rely on the same tactics and technology they've used for millennia. Why change when nothing has ever successfully challenged them? The burned world's Nathan leaned back in his chair, processing the implications. What about resistance? Surely. Some species have tried to fight back over the centuries. Patricia's expression darkened like a storm cloud. Oh, they have. Look at this. She brought up records of 5 different star systems, each one now showing as dead zones on the galactic map. The ascendancy calls these the purified worlds. Each one tried to rebel at some point in their history. The records showed once thriving civilizations reduced to radioactive ash and twisted metal. Billions of lives extinguished as examples. To others, the Nexari Confederation rebelled 800 years ago, Patricia explained, her voice heavy with sorrow. They had developed weapons that could actually damage ascendancy ships. The response was total genocide, not just military targets, but every city, every settlement, every living thing on their 17 worlds. And the others just watched? Reed asked, horrified. What choice did they have? The ascendancy made sure everyone witnessed the destruction. It broadcast the annihilation across the galaxy as a holy lesson about the price of defying gods. Nathan stood and walked to the small viewport, staring out at the stars. Somewhere out there, billions of intelligent beings live their entire lives in slavery, too terrified to even dream of freedom. A spark of hope, Captain, Patricia said softly. There's something else. I've been monitoring communications from other species since the ascendancy gave us their ultimatum. Word is spreading throughout the galaxy that a new species has been contacted. What are they saying? Nathan asked, turning back to face her. Most are convinced we'll surrender like everyone else has for 12 millennia. But Captain ... Patricia's voice carried a note of wonder. There are some messages that sound different. Hopeful, maybe. Like some of them are wondering if perhaps, just perhaps, someone might finally have the courage to say no. Reed checked his console readings. Captain, how many ships does the ascendancy have in this sector? Best estimate? Around 300 vessels, ranging from scouts to massive battleships. And that's just what we can detect with our sensors. Against our one ship, Nathan said quietly. Against our one ship, Reed confirmed. Patricia pulled up another screen, showing human space, a tiny bubble of stars compared to the vast ascendancy empire. Captain, if we surrender, they'll demand the same from all of humanity. Tribute, slaves, technological stagnation. They'll turn us into just another herd of sheep in their galactic farm. Nathan looked at the star map again, at all those red dots representing enslaved worlds. Somewhere out there, people were going to sleep tonight wondering if anyone would ever have the courage to stand up to their so-called gods. The message of defiance. Send a message to all those species. Nathan ordered quietly. What should I tell them about our response to the Ascendancy ultimatum? Patricia asked. Nathan smiled grimly, and for the first time since this nightmare began, he felt absolutely certain about his choice. Tell them that humans don't bow to false gods. Tell them that some fights are worth having, even when you're outnumbered 300 to 1. Patricia stared at him with a mixture of admiration and concern. Captain, are you sure about this? I've never been more sure of anything in my life, Nathan replied firmly. It's time someone reminded this galaxy that gods can bleed. The message went out across subspace frequencies, transmitted to dozens of enslaved worlds. For the first time in 12,000 years, someone was saying no to the eternal ascendancy. The spark of rebellion had been lit, and now they would see if it would grow into the fire that could burn down an empire of lies. The line in space countdown to defiance the 72-hour deadline approached like an inevitable asteroid collision. Captain Nathan Cross stood on the bridge of the U.E.'s Valkyrie, watching as the Eternal Ascendancy fleet arranged itself in perfect formation outside the viewport. Their 12 massive vessels gleamed with divine light, weapons systems charging with enough power to reshape worlds. The bridge hummed with tense activity as every crew member prepared for what might be their final moments. Lieutenant Zoe Carter ran continuous tactical scans, her face grim but determined. Chief Red monitored power systems that would soon be pushed beyond their limits. Dr. Patricia Brennan analyzed enemy formations from her science station, searching for any weakness they could exploit. Incoming transmission from the Ascendancy flagship, Derek Mills announced, his young voice steady despite the magnitude of what was about to unfold. Nathan straightened his uniform and clasped his hands behind his back. Every human on the bridge was watching, waiting for words that would determine their fate and possibly the future of their entire species. Put it through. The moment of truth supreme Diverge Kithrin appeared on the main screen, his crystalline form pulsing with angry energy. His 6 arms spread wide in a gesture of divine judgment that had cowed civilizations for 12 millennia. Your time of decision has arrived, creatures of flesh and bone, Kithrin intoned, his voice echoing through dimensions. What is your answer to the divine command? Nathan stepped forward, meeting those swirling galactic eyes without flinching. We've made our decision, Kithrin. Humanity rejects your claim to godhood. The silence that followed was so complete that Nathan could hear the hum of the Valkyrie's engines 3 decks below. For 12,000 years, no species had ever spoken those words to the eternal ascendancy. The impossible had just happened. Kithrin's crystalline skin flickered with disbelief. This cannot be. No species has ever refused after witnessing our divine power. Well, there's a first time for everything, Lieutenant Carter said from her station with a fierce grin. And we humans are pretty good at being first. Divine fury unleashed. The Divarch's form blazed brighter with rage. You dare mock the divine? Your ignorance will cost your entire species dearly. We shall reduce your mudball world to cosmic dust. Our species has dealt with tyrants before, Nathan replied calmly. Kings who claimed divine right, emperors who believed they were gods, dictators who thought they were above mortal law. None of them were actually gods either. Kithrin's 6 arms began crackling with energy that warped space around them. We are not mere tyrants. We have ruled this galaxy for 12,000 years. Civilizations beyond counting worship at our feet. Because you murdered anyone who didn't, Chief Reed called out from his engineering station. Real gods don't need to rule through fear and genocide. Silence. Kithrin roared, his form now blazing like a small star. You will learn the price of blasphemy. Prepare to face divine judgment. A transmission cut off abruptly. Through the viewports, Nathan could see the Ascendancy fleet beginning to move, their weapon systems glowing with lethal intent. The first strike Well, that could have gone better, Reed observed with dry humor. Are you kidding? Zoe said, her tactical display lighting up with targeting solutions. Did you see the look on that thing's face when the captain refused to bow? I don't think anyone has ever said no to them before. Dr. Brennan looked up from her science station with excitement. In her voice, Captain, I've been analyzing their formation during that exchange. Their technology is impressive, but it follows completely predictable patterns. They're not used to adapting their tactics because they've never needed to. What do you mean? Nathan asked, moving to her console. Their ships are designed for overwhelming primitive opponents quickly. Massive energy weapons, powerful shields, but limited maneuverability. They're built to win through pure power, not tactical flexibility. Lieutenant Carter nodded from her weapons station. I've been studying their attack patterns from when they destroyed our probe ships. Very straightforward, no creativity at all. They just point and shoot with overwhelming force. Nathan felt the first spark of hope since this encounter began. So they're used to fighting terrified primitives who can't hurt them back. Exactly. Dr. Brennan confirmed. Captain, I don't think they've faced a real space battle in centuries, maybe millennia. Why would they need to develop new tactics when every species either surrenders immediately or gets wiped out in the first exchange? Battle stations, Captain, Barrick called from communications. I'm picking up transmissions from across the sector. Our refusal to surrender is causing quite a stir among the enslaved worlds. Good stir or bad stir? Nathan asked. Mixed reactions, sir. Some species are terrified that we've doomed the galaxy to divine wrath. But others, ... Derek's voice carried a note of wonder. Others are asking questions they haven't dared ask in generations. Questions like, what if they're not really gods? Zoe looked up from her tactical display with concern. Captain, I'm detecting massive fleet movements throughout Ascendancy. Space. They're pulling ships from garrison duties across multiple sectors. How many additional vessels? Nathan asked. At least 80 ships heading this way, sir. They're not just planning to destroy us. They want to make our annihilation so spectacular that no one else will ever think of resisting. Nathan nodded grimly, which means they'll bring everything they have. Good, Chief Reed said, surprising everyone on the bridge. If they're pulling ships from all over their empire to deal with one human vessel, that means they're taking us seriously. And if they're taking us seriously, maybe we really do have a chance, Nathan finished, understanding flooding through him, the plan DR. Brennan was working frantically at her console, analyzing energy patterns and quantum signatures. Captain, I think I've found something. Their ships aren't just powerful. They're connected through some kind of quantum entanglement network. They share power and information across their entire fleet. Can we disrupt that connection? Nathan asked. Theoretically, yes. If we can create enough quantum interference in their network, we might be able to cause a cascade failure. But Captain ... Patricia's voice grew quiet. It would require us to overload our entire deflector array and channel every erg of power through our main engines. The ship probably won't survive the attempt. The bridge fell silent as the implications sank in. They were talking about a suicide run with no guarantee of success. Captain, Zoe said quietly, if we can prove that the Ascendancy can be beaten, other species will follow our example. The uprising has already begun. I'm seeing reports of rebellion on at least 20 worlds. And every victory makes them look less like gods and more like the tyrants they really are, Barrick added. The empire they spent 12,000 years building is starting to crack. Nathan looked around at his crew, these extraordinary humans, who had followed him into an impossible situation without hesitation. They were ready to sacrifice everything for the chance to light the fuse of galactic revolution. All right then, Nathan said quietly. Let's finish what we started. If humanity is going to ignite the fire of galactic freedom, we might as well make sure it burns bright enough for the entire galaxy to see. He activated the ship-wide communication system. This is Captain Cross to all crew. What we do in the next few hours will echo across the stars for generations. Let's make sure it's a sound worth hearing. The final battle was about to begin. The fleet arrived space around the Tau Ceti. System erupted in brilliant flashes as the Eternal Ascendancy reinforcement fleet dropped out of hyperspace. Captain Nathan Cross watched from the bridge of the U.S. Valkyrie as 94 warships materialized in perfect formation, their crystalline hulls pulsing with divine energy. Each vessel was a monument to power that had crushed civilizations for 12 millennia. Mother of ... Chief Reed breathed, staring at the tactical display. Captain, they brought enough firepower to crack planets. Supreme Diverch Kithrin's flagship led the formation, twice the size of any other vessel, and blazing with energy that seemed to tear holes in reality itself. The sight should have been terrifying, overwhelming, impossible to face. Instead, Nathan felt a strange calm settle over him. Dr. Brennan, are our modifications ready? He asked. Deflector array is reconfigured and charged to 400% of normal capacity. Patricia replied, her hands dancing over her console. Captain, when we activate this quantum cascade, it's going to tear our ship apart from the inside. Out. All hands, this is the captain, Nathan announced over the ship-wide comm. In the next few minutes, we're going to attempt something that's never been tried before. We're going to prove to the galaxy that gods can bleed. It's been an honor serving with all of you. The battle begins. The Ascendancy fleet moved forward in their traditional formation, a perfect geometric pattern designed to maximize overlapping fields of fire. They had used the same tactics for thousands of years because they had never needed to change them. Why adapt when every enemy either surrendered or died in the first exchange? They're targeting us with everything they have. Zoe reported from Tactical. 94 ships, all weapons locked on our position. Derek, open a channel to all enslaved worlds, Nathan ordered. Make sure everyone in the galaxy can witness this moment. Channel open, sir. Broadcasting on all frequencies. Nathan, step to the center of the bridge and look directly into the communication pickup. To every species that has lived under the boot of the Eternal Ascendancy today, you will see that your oppressors are not gods. They are bullies with advanced technology, and bullies can be beaten. First blood, the Ascendancy fleet opened fire with the concentrated power of 100 suns. Energy beams that could vaporize moons struck the Valkyrie's shields, causing them to flare brilliant white before failing completely. The small human ship shuddered and screamed as impossible forces tore at her hull. Shields down. Hull breaches. On decks 4 through 7, Reed shouted over the sound of failing systems. We're venting atmosphere. Emergency bulkheads are holding, Zoe reported. But we've lost 30% of our structural integrity. Now, Dr. Brennan, Nathan commanded. Patricia activated the modified deflector array, sending a cascade of quantum interference toward the Ascendancy fleet. For a moment, space itself seemed to ripple and distort as the exotic energy tore through the fabric of reality. Then, the impossible happened. The perfect geometric formation of the Ascendancy fleet wavered. Ship after ship began to flicker as their quantum entanglement network was disrupted. The brilliant glow that had made them seem divine began to dim. It's working, Zoe announced with amazement. Their power levels are dropping across the entire fleet. The moment of truth on the flagship, Supreme Diverch Kithrin stared in shock as his vessel's systems began to fail. For the first time in 12,000 years, an Ascendancy ship was vulnerable. Impossible, he raged. We are eternal. We are divine. No, Nathan's voice came over the communication channel, broadcast to every world in the galaxy. You're mortal, just like everyone else you've terrorized. The Valkyrie, her hull cracked and bleeding atmosphere, fired everything she had at the nearest ascendancy vessel. Human weapons that should have been useless against divine shields tore through failing defenses and bit deep into crystalline armor. Across the galaxy, on 1,000 enslaved worlds, billions of beings watched in stunned silence as their gods bled. The uprising begins. The psychological impact was immediate and devastating to the Ascendancy's power structure. On the mining world of Kepler-7, workers dropped their tools and stared at the skies in wonder. On the agricultural planet of Vega Prime, farmers whispered prayers of hope they hadn't dared speak in centuries. "Captain," Derek reported with excitement, "I'm receiving transmissions from everywhere. Dozens of species are declaring independence. The Empire is collapsing." But the battle was far from over. The Ascendancy fleet, though damaged and shocked, still outnumbered the Valkyrie nearly 100 to 1. Kithrin's flagship began to glow with renewed power as its crew desperately tried to restore their systems. All remaining power to weapons. Nathan ordered, "If we're going down, we're taking as many of these false gods with us as possible." The cascade effect Dr. Brennan was working frantically at her damaged station. "Captain, the quantum cascade is spreading through their network, faster than they can compensate. If I can maintain the interference for just a few more minutes, their entire fleet will be vulnerable." "How many more minutes do we have?" Nathan asked as explosions rocked the ship. "Based on current damage rates, maybe 3. Then we make them count." The Valkyrie, held together by little more than determination and emergency power, continued to fight. Her weapons, suddenly effective against failing Ascendancy shields, destroyed ship after ship of the once invincible fleet. But the effort was destroying her. Hull plates peeled away like flower petals. Atmosphere vented from dozens of breaches, and her engines were operating far beyond safe parameters. "Captain," Reed called out, "reactor containment is failing. We have maybe 90 seconds before a complete core breach." Nathan looked around at his crew, these remarkable humans who had chosen to light the fire of galactic freedom, even if it meant their own destruction. "All hands, abandon ship," he ordered. "That's a direct order. Get to the escape pods." "Sir, we're not leaving you," Zoe protested. "Yes, you are. Someone needs to survive, to tell the story of what happened here. Go." The price of freedom, as his crew reluctantly evacuated, Nathan remained on the bridge of the dying Valkyrie. Through the cracked viewports, he could see the Ascendancy fleet in complete disarray. Ships that had terrorized the galaxy for millennia were fleeing, their divine pretenses shattered forever. The communication console crackled with messages from across known space. "The gods are retreating. They're actually running away. Independence declared on Rigel 4. The Ascendancy garrison has surrendered. Freedom. Freedom for the first time in 800 years." Nathan smiled as he watched Kithrin's flagship limp away, its crystalline hull scarred and broken. The Supreme Divarch's final transmission was filled with rage and disbelief. "This cannot be. We are eternal. We are divine." "No," Nathan said quietly to the empty bridge. "You were just bullies, and humanity doesn't bow to bullies." The Valkyrie exploded in a brilliant flash that could be seen across star systems. But from her destruction rose something infinitely more powerful, hope spreading like wildfire through a galaxy ready to be free. The age of the eternal ascendancy was ending. The age of galactic freedom had begun. And it had all started with one human ship and the courage to say no to false gods. Part 5. The Birth of an Empire from Ashes. Freedom. 6 months after the Battle of Tau Ceti, the galaxy was unrecognizable. The explosion of the used Valkyrie had been seen across dozens of star systems, but its true impact was measured not in light years, but in the collapse of the greatest tyranny in galactic history. Ambassador Rachel Torres stood on the observation deck of the newly constructed Terra Station, watching as ships from 47 different species arrived for the first Galactic Freedom Conference. The irony wasn't lost on her that she shared a name with the late communications officer Derek Mill's sister. Coincidences like that had become common as humanity rapidly expanded its presence among the stars. "It's hard to believe it's only been 6 months," said General William Kane, joining her at the viewport. The former Earth Defense Force commander had been promoted to oversee humanity's new role as liberators of the galaxy. Through the transparent aluminum, they could see vessels of every conceivable design: crystalline ships from the former Ascendancy worlds, biomechanical craft from the Zephyrian systems, elegant curved hulls from the Nokari Federation, and sturdy angular vessels from the Thorani Republic, all of them flying under the banner of the new Galactic Liberation Alliance. The ripple effect report from Sector 7 Ambassador announced Captain Lisa Hartwell, approaching with a datapad. The young officer had been one of the first volunteers for humanity's new diplomatic corps, and her natural talent for alien languages had made her invaluable. "What's the situation?" Rachel asked, accepting the report. "The Nexus Consortium has formally requested human military advisors. They're facing resistance from the last Ascendancy stronghold in their system, and they want to learn our tactical innovations."